Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm talking about the philosophy of leisure and specifically what Aristotle had to say about life and work. And I'm really interested to get into how his philosophy differs from where we are today, because I think we've moved really far from what Aristotle's concept was. So much so that people don't even really know what leisure is. Some of us know the word, but we usually think it means rest or taking a vacation, and it doesn't, and it's a really important difference. And so I have another one here on the philosophy of leisure according to Joseph Pieper. So he's a much more contemporary philosopher and lover of the arts. So I'm a fan of his stuff. Absolutely check that out if you're curious. But if you really want to hear what Aristotle had to say, stick around because we're going to get into it. So to get to the crux of the issue, like right at the start, Aristotle believed that we should define ourselves by our leisure activities rather than our work. And I think that's such a big shift. Like, let me say that again. He believed we should define ourselves by our leisure activities rather than our work. In so many ways today, we choose to define ourselves by our profession, by our work. You can see this very tangibly in the question we ask little kids. We say, what do you want to be when you grow up? We don't even ask, what do you want to do? We say, what do you want to be? It's our entire identity is so wrapped up in our careers and our idea of profession and what do we do for work. In our culture today, in our society, we really aren't taught about leisure, like what it is or how to do it. Aristotle at the time wrote about how the Spartans didn't know how to have leisure. He said their society was geared towards combat. They were prepared for war. They were brilliant fighters, right? That's how they structured and focused their time in their society. So then when there was peacetime, he said the Spartans didn't thrive during peacetime. They didn't know what to do. They weren't prepared to like have a flourishing society in peace times. It's not necessarily shocking or new. It doesn't make us unusual that we don't understand leisure, but it's not a strength. So the Spartans focused on war and fighting. I would say arguably we focus on producing and consuming. So that's a different look as well. And you can see our lack of understanding in that our relationship to work and rest today tends to like land at these extremes. Like we swing towards workaholism of feeling like obsessed with work, or we want to work all the time. When we have extra time, maybe we feel like we need to be doing more work. Many of us fall into that category. And then after that, or outside of work, many of us swing towards kind of empty entertainment, right? We just want to turn off our brains. We don't want to move. We don't want to think. Or maybe it involves like drinking a lot of alcohol, going out with friends and partying, but it's kind of empty, easy entertainment for the purposes of resting or recuperating, ideally. So we have workaholism on one side, kind of empty entertainment on the other, and in the middle, a kind of guilt over not doing one of those two. Like, oh, I should be working more, or I should be more social. And it's a terrible cycle, and many of us live in all three of these. We spend our time working really hard, having kind of empty, resting time. Rest is necessary, but it's not leisure. And then feeling kind of guilty or kicking ourselves or being confused when we have time in between where there would be a possibility for leisure. And then our proposed cure to this negative cycle is essentially a new packaging of the American dream. Like, go be your own boss, create your own business, be like an entrepreneur, like break out of this mold and find your own way. And I mean, I can only be so critical of that because I'm literally here on YouTube hoping I can make a difference and start a side business because it's really appealing to me. Like, I get it. I can only be so critical. But it's really intense. We're like living in a world of really intense extremes here. I don't know. Where's the middle of the road? Where's the like, I'm an average person with a 9-to-5, but I would like to feel like rest and rejuvenated and like deeper meaning and purpose in my life. Where does that exist? And that is where I think Aristotle can help us. So Aristotle believed that work and recovery were both a means to support leisure. Like, leisure was the goal. It wasn't an afterthought. As human beings, we were meant to, and happiest when we were pursuing strong leisure activities. And I'll get into what those are at the end. So he said amusement is for recovery. So this kind of like, and I say entertainment in a way like kind of empty or easy entertainment. It doesn't make it a bad thing. There is nothing wrong with at the end of a long week turning on a show and just kind of turning off your brain for a bit. I get it. It feels great. You're so tired, right? Sometimes we're so tired and we need a rest. That's really important. We need to rest. And so we can't have like easy, empty amusement. There's a place for that. But the recovery period is not the objective. So this idea of living for the weekend so that we can just take a rest, that's not the objective. That's not actually deeply fulfilling. That's not leisure. And he has this quote I really like. It's kind of punchy. He says, the objective of work is usually to sustain ourselves biologically, an objective we share with other animals. But the objective of leisure can and should be to sustain other aspects of our lives which make us uniquely human: our souls, our minds, our personal and civic relationships. So he's making the point that the work-rest cycle is something we share with the animals. It's not bad. It makes sense. We need to do it. But it doesn't raise us any higher. It's not elevating us. We ought to, in our leisure, be seeking out things that elevate us. And this is why it's such a priority to him. He's like, look, we have to work so that we can eat. But we don't eat so that we can work some more. Hopefully, we're working and eating so that we can like be deeply human with the rest of our time. And so in this idea, leisure is the time when we can reach our truest human potential. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk for a second about how can you tell if something is a leisure activity? Because a leisure and an entertainment can run together, or at least the activities themselves can actually overlap. But the simplest way I think of it, the easiest way to understand it, is that it is a leisure activity if it brings you as a person somehow higher, or actually deeper if you want to think of it that way. It's like you're connecting to something more. So this is part of why people talk about the arts, because the arts done well, like proper arts, we could have another video about that. But the arts done well are always a leisure activity because it's calling you to engage with something a little bit deeper. And actually it's part of why we don't tend to support or go to the arts today, because leisure, if it connects you to something higher, requires a little bit of effort. It shouldn't be exhausting. It's not like work. It should not be work, but it takes a little bit of effort. We need to apply ourselves and actually try to reach something higher, to find a deeper connection within ourselves to what is being given to us. So this is part of why I'm such a huge proponent of the arts, part of why I studied theater and I work in the arts, is I'm really compelled by this drawing to something deeper. That's what I want with my life. If you're looking for a leisure activity, that's a pretty good way to start. So this could be going to a performance. You could go see a play. You could go to the symphony, go to the ballet. You could go to a museum, like look at some artwork. Art is beautiful and amazing, and the way it works is that it calls us to something deeper. It's supposed to call us to something more. And we can have a whole argument about the difference between art and propaganda, something else I feel strongly on, but that's a different video. So the arts. With that, I want to make a case for movies here, and there are so many, and we are so good at making amazing movies today. I love a good film. I can kind of tell within myself the difference between being entertained and having a leisure activity. If I turn on like a foreign film or a good drama, anything with a deep story that's really going to get me thinking about how these people connect to each other, what's the like deeper meaning of the story, where does this fit in kind of my idea of reality and the cosmos. Like if it inspires deeper thinking, it's leisure. And it's one of my favorite things is to turn on a good movie with a group of people that I can talk to about it afterwards. So I make a case for movies. I think in the right cultural setting, you can make a case for sports. When people really band together and there's something a little bit deeper there, that can probably be a leisure activity. And that's not my jam. I don't do sports. I'm like the classic art geek who never really played sports and doesn't really go to watch them. And a lot of people would completely write them off, but I don't think that's fair. I think you can actually connect those to leisure. But see, it's tricky because at the exact same time, so much of the time, like sports or movies have nothing deeper to them. How many people like turn on a football game in the background and it's like fun, like it's a distraction, like you're engaging with it in like some part of your brain, but nothing deeper. Same thing with most TV today. We turn on a show, we just turn off our brains. When there's nothing else happening, right? It has to call you deeper. And even things that traditionally you think are like intellectual or hard, they can go either way, like reading a book. People say, oh, it's really important to read books. It is. But if it's something kind of cheap and shallow and it's not pulling you in or like causing you to question things or think or connect more to the world around you, it's still just entertainment, which is okay, but it doesn't make it leisure, which is what we really want to pursue. And then think broadly about this. Anything that calls us or connects us deeper. Okay, prayer. I mean, if you go to church on Sundays, hopefully, if you're actually connecting with what's happening, that should be a leisure activity. Like that ought to be something more than kind of empty gestures and service. Going to a friend's wedding. Hopefully there's leisure in that. Hopefully you're like really connecting with these people and you feel like a deeper sense of community. I just went to a beautiful wedding a couple of weeks ago and it was amazing. And it was kind of hard work. Like I had to get on a plane. I had to fly out there. I was staying with people I didn't know who actually also spoke Italian. So there was a lot about it that I was like, this is kind of difficult, but it was so good. It was so good and gave me like growth and new ideas and rest in a different, deeper kind of way. It's not just a matter of adding a different activity into our lives. It's also a matter of like perspective. If we want to prioritize the idea that our deeper humanity is the goal of our lives, like our goal is to be more human, then it can spill over into the other areas of our lives. Like we will prioritize the way we spend time with family and try to make sure it's good time and that we're really experiencing the other person in front of us. It can spill over into our work and we can find like a greater like joy and connection and actually strive to really be a little bit more present to the people around us, because you can have bits of leisure in your workday. It can like spread. It's not necessarily in a little box. It's a mindset as much as it is an activity. But the main thing is this idea that work and rest are both different from leisure. It's something else. It's something deeper. And if we really try to prioritize it in our life, it brings a lot of color and meaning and depth. And what used to feel like, I don't know, running around endlessly in a hamster wheel stops being that way. Our life has more meaning and it helps take us out of this sort of consumerism cycle that many of us fall into. Okay. So actually, I have to admit at the end there, I think I extrapolated a little bit from Aristotle's philosophy. I know for sure he believed that leisure is when we are our most human and that it should be our priority over work and rest. So I hope that makes sense. This is sort of a nutshell, like a quick look at what Aristotle believed about leisure and how we relate to work and the use of our time. I hope you found that helpful. I really enjoyed looking into it. And this video idea actually came from the comments section. Thank you for the idea. It was a really fun one to look into and do. Ties into what I love talking about anyways. Philosophy, psychology, and essentially how we can find deeper meaning in our lives today, like practically. What does that look like? So if you have ideas for me, drop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see more content, please do subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.